JNT 250 is back. Blue Jay is back, and the Clown Fiesta podcast is back. Our first episode of 2022. And with that, the LCS lock-in is back. That will be starting this Friday and going for the next few weeks in January. Finally, we have some LCS content. JNT, real quick, how was your little break over the last month or two?
Pretty good. Kind of sleeper because of COVID, but
Yeah.
just hanging out.
Just hanging out, waiting for time to pass, waiting for the LCS to start.
Pretty
Uh,
much.
that's pretty much how it's been for me too. So let's get into it. Okay, we got lock-in happening. Why don't we start by sharing what the groups are? Just a little refresher. I'm sure people know the groups, but let's give a little reminder.
Yep. So Group A leads up with 100 Thieves, who were obviously they got first pick in their little lock-in draft that they did. If you don't know what they did, you picked a team to go into the opposite group. So the way that it went is Group A is 100 Thieves, Cloud9, TSM, Golden Guardians, FlyQuest. Group B is TL, EG, Immortals, CLG, Dignitas. So that basically means that with the first pick per se, 100 Thieves chose to put TL in the other group, and the rest went as followed. TL put Cloud9 in the other one, Cloud9 put EG, and so on and so forth.
Oh, is that how I thought that it was I thought that 100 Thieves and TL both started in their groups because they were like I thought that's how it worked.
Either way, they put teams in
Yeah,
their other
right.
group, and 100 Thieves got the first pick. So whether or not 100
Right,
Thieves
yeah.
put them in that side, or
The point remains the same. Yeah.
yeah.
And unfortunately, there's also a lot of rumors and kind of just things aren't really clear as to who exactly is going to be starting for all these teams. We're starting to see some teams make some announcements of what their rosters are supposed to look like for this tournament, but it's all very last minute, and some of it is just straight up rumors. JNT, did you want to give a little more house cleaning, if you will, as to what we should kind of expect these rosters to look like?
Yeah, so what we do know, and stuff that has been confirmed by all the teams, is TSM is fielding their entire academy roster. They put out a statement saying their LCS roster hasn't even gotten a chance to play together yet because their two young Chinese mid laners, LDL mid laners they were last year, haven't even come over to the US. So first of all, that's kind of crazy that they literally have never even practiced with the season. Like, sure,
Yeah.
lock-in starts in 4 days, but the season actually starts in 3 weeks, and they haven't even practiced, so that's kind of crazy. Cloud9, what we do know is that all of their Korean-based players and coaches can't get over in time for the lock-in tournament. That means Summit, LS, Berserker, and Winsome, as long as a couple of the other Korean-based people they have on their coaching staff, like Autumn. They can't come, so Cloud9's roster is going to be Darshan, their academy top laner, Blabber, Fudge, Sven, and Isles. And then lastly, Dignitas just very recently put out a statement saying that River, their jungler whom they acquired from PSG Talon this offseason, is not playing with their team, and their academy jungler is playing.
And we kind of wondered, like, because it was possible that Blue would be in the same boat, but I would imagine that if Blue wasn't playing, he would have been part of that announcement.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna go off the assumption that Blue is playing. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have to. That's the weird thing about all this is we have to kind of pick it all apart and figure out what the rosters are gonna be. But
Yeah, and those are
what
only
can
all the
you?
things that we know, and like there is, as we said, a bunch of unknown. Like, I'll pull up the rosters; those aren't the rosters. I'll pull up the rosters here in a second, just because there are a few imports to point out on each team, which at this point we don't really know whether or not they're going to be able to get back to NA in time. So you look at 100 Thieves; their imports are closer in Abadage. We haven't heard anything. Dignitas, Blue, like we said, hasn't been talked about, but we presume is good because we think he would include it in the River thing.
Yeah.
EG,
Right.
Inspired, FlyQuest, Jose Diodo, and Takui, Golden Guardians, Pride Stalker, and then Immortals, Xerxes, and Power of Evil.
So what I do know is that during Hotline League tonight, because Peter Dunn was the guest, I saw Inspired make a little, we'll call it a guest appearance. He literally just poked his head out at the camera, sort of thing. I don't even know if he knew he was on camera. He was just walking in the hallway. So I could tell you Inspired is in North America.
He's probably
Either that
playing
or
then.
yeah. So that gives us a little bit of, again, just doing some detective work. It gives us an idea that Inspired is likely playing.
Mm-hmm. And then the last one to talk about is Team Liquid, because they're also there's a bit of confusion there. But one thing that we do know is Bwipo put on Twitter saying that he is playing because he posted something on Twitter as he like just arrived to North America or something. I don't remember exactly what it was. I want to say this was like 5 or 6 days ago. So we do know that Whippo's playing. We assume that Santorin and Bjergsen are playing, and we don't really know about Hansama or Core JJ quite yet.
Yeah. It yeah, that was another thing on Hotline. It seemed like Travis had sort of heard that Core JJ might not be playing, but also Peter Dunn seemed to indicate that he might be playing. So that's another one that's a toss up. Um well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I don't know what to say. Usually when we do this kind of stuff, when we do little updates like this, the next day all the rosters get announced.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry if you're listening to this on Wednesday, but as of Monday night, this is what we knew. So whoops.
Yeah, Tuesday for whatever reason seems to be the day where they just always announce stuff that we've just talked about, the
Okay,
night prior.
yeah, that's just how it always works. Let's talk about the strength of the groups. Let's just start there. Which group do you think is more difficult? Like, which group do you think has the better teams, Jinter?
Well, I mean, I guess I would have to say, based on like rosters alone and like perceived, strength coming into it, I think you would have to say Group A because they have three of the five. Because, to be honest, I think everyone recognizes that there's a clear jump from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And Group A has three of those teams: 100 Thieves, Cloud9, and TSM. But what we know right now is Cloud9 is not going to have their main coach, their main top laner, or their main bottom lane duo. And TSM is basically playing their entire academy roster. Whereas you look at the flip side of Group B, I guess based on we'll call it like Inspire's little troll appearance on Hotline League, EG is going to have their whole roster. From what we know, Immortals CLG, like we can maybe assume that they're playing with their full rosters because they haven't said anything. And Dignitas is missing River, but Group B is looking quite strong over there, presuming they're at full strength.
I also went with Group A. I mean, I went back and forth on this, and again, a lot of it has to do with, well, is this guy going to be playing? Is this guy going to be playing? In the end, I just went with Group A, just because I think that no matter what, I think you have to say that 100 Thieves is going to be a contender, seeing as they won uh, the LCS last summer. So there's that. The other thing with Cloud9 is like, yes, they have. There's a lot of question marks, seeing as most of their roster's missing, but also it's not like they're. Excuse me. It's not like they're being replaced by players that we haven't seen necessarily before. Perhaps Isles, but like Sven is still a good AD carry, and Darshan's been around for a long time as well. It's not like we're getting unknown quantities. And so, excuse me. I guess what I'm saying is I don't think that just because Cloud9 doesn't have their starters that they've just fallen off a cliff all of a sudden. So there's that. TSM, I can't pretend to know anything about TSM. I have no idea. And then I guess Golden Guardians and Fly I just think are meh, but I think those kind of get canceled out by CLG and Dig on the other side. So if I knew TL had all their starters and I knew EG and IMT had all their starters, I'd be much more inclined to give a little bit more credit to Group B. But it's I don't know, it's too hard to predict when we don't know what the rosters look like.
Yeah, I think if the rosters were all at full strength, I think I would probably go with Group A. But considering two of those big three and three within the group, Cloud9 and TSM are going to be playing not all their players. I think I just slightly swing over to Group B just because EG on paper they have a really good roster, and I think Immortals is pretty underrated this season. So we'll just have to see.
Yeah, so out of like there was talk, I want to bring back to what you said before about the top 5 and the bottom 5, and most people have said if there's going to be a quote unquote bottom 5 team that pushes into the top 5, it would be Immortals. People have a lot of faith in Xerxes and Power of Evil, and I think with good reason. Like these are guys that have had success in this league. Xerxes, I know last year was not the greatest year for Immortals, but people that have been listening to us for a long time know that I've said Xerxes actually looked really good last year. He just wasn't on such a great team. And we've seen so much success with Power of Evil. Someone brought up on Hotline League tonight a really good point that like think of all the junglers that PoE has played with, and he's all of their junglers have performed really well with him. Spica was an MVP last split. The one before that, where did he play before?
Santorin,
Santorin this before that, and then even Wiggly. I remember
I was gonna.
Wiggly was even this is where I need to remind people, Wiggly was 4th in MVP voting that last split in 2019. I still can't believe that was the case. But I remember when we saw that was the year that the finals was in Detroit. We were there and we saw them
Mhm.
play. Like it's hard to believe that just 2 years ago, I guess 3 years ago now, CLG was not that bad of a team.
Mhm.
Um, anyways, and that was with Power of Evil playing in the mid lane. So I guess what I'm saying is like you could make the argument that PoE makes his jungler better by going to well, what is it now? 3 or 4 different teams, and having good junglers with all of them, and seeing what happens after those junglers lose. Or specifically seeing what happened with Wiggly after he lost PoE is an argument again in PoE's favor. So
Mhm.
just some things to highlight there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, looking at the flip side, if we talk about one, I think team that has the chance to push up, at least in lock-in, I think going over to Group A is Golden Guardians because they're retaining two of their best players from last split in Licorice and Blaze Olive. Everyone who watched us at the end of last year knows how good I thought Ablazov played last split. I thought he was a top 3 mid in NA. I thought he was the third best mid relative to performance. Maybe not team performance, but individual performance. He was definitely better than the likes of Perks and whatnot. Uh, based on what we saw. And I think coming into lock-in, I think it's going to be a real test for them to kind of see how they mesh as a team, specifically with Pride Stalker, a player that we really know nothing about from the TCL. TCL, I think, yeah, TCL. And Ole coming out of retirement. Um, I think this team has the potential, at least in lock-in, to really do some damage with a weak TSM and a weak C9. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Golden Guardians actually like won some games here.
So I'm a little bit more cold on Golden Guardians now. Was there rumors about Pride Soccer not coming over? Is I getting that right
I
or
have no
no?
clue.
I could be making this up now. I thought that there was rumors that Pride Stalker might not be playing. Um, and I guess I don't even know who the backup jungler would be in that case. I feel like once I saw the name, I'd be like, oh yeah. But besides the point there, I do think Ablaze Olive looked good last year, but I don't think that he looked good enough to carry what I would say is still a below average team. I don't think Loss was particularly great on TSM. I don't know what to think about Olay because the last time we saw him, he did struggle. And look, I know there's the story behind Olay right now is that he's grinded really hard to get back, and I tons of respect there. But solo queue is solo queue, and like I can't just say, oh, you're doing great in solo queue. That means that you're going to be great in the LCS. I'm not that much of a. I'll need to see more from him before I start believing in that. And Licorice, while I do think he definitely got better when going to Golden Guardians last year, he definitely looked worse. And even his last year in Cloud9, I remember saying like Licorice has started to look worse. And so his career for me has been on a downward trajectory. So I'm not that hot on Golden Guardians. I think that they're probably going to be one of the worst teams in this group. Actually, probably fourth. I think I would only have FlyQuest behind them if I were to guess. So
I'm just saying with like a weak
maybe
TSM and
third.
a
I
weak
could see. I could
Cloud9.
see them. Yeah, I could see them taking games off TSM. Even though I know C9 doesn't have their starters, I would still have C9 finishing ahead of them. I think. Yeah.
We'll just have to
Um.
see.
So your sleeper pick is Golden Guardians.
Yeah.
Um. Is it sleeper if my pick is C9? Is that weird?
Yeah.
Why is it weird to you though?
Just
Is it
because
just
of who
because you
they
think
are.
they're supposed to be a good team?
I
So
think it's
yeah,
just
you're
because of
thinking
who
more
they
the
are.
identity of the team, or what do you mean exactly?
Yeah, it's just the identity of the team. Just like
So
just like it would be crazy to say that like Cloud like I don't know, just to even put Cloud9 out of the top teams in the league just because they are Cloud9 feels weird. Yeah, like let's in a world where Cloud9 is a terrible roster, at this point you would kind of give them the benefit of the doubt that like, oh yeah, like they're going to pop off with all these rando players that we've never heard of. So it's just more like that, like not that it's a surprising thing, but like it just would be like just weird to have them outside.
Lamau LP in the live chat giving me I don't know what to call it. I guess some I what's the word? Some sarcastic flame saying TL is my sleeper pick, Kappa. Yeah, okay. So I don't think that those are the exact same. The reason why I actually think that C9 can be a sleeper pick, and I don't remember exactly what Peter Dunn said about Cloud9 during Hotline tonight, but he sounded very cold on them as well. And the discussion kind of sounded like C9 they're playing their academy roster, so they're going to look weaker. But like, I still don't look at this team and look at them as an academy roster per se. When you still have Blabber, Fudge, and Sven all playing, like I don't know. Yes, they have academy components with Isles and Darshan, but I guess I just don't think that they are an academy level team. And so I think that they need to be given more credit. I guess sleeper the term sleeper pick is more of a it's relevant to the perception, right? So I
Hmm.
guess what I'm saying is I think this team is better than the perception that the community is giving them. And my other one would have been Immortals, but we kind of already talked about them.
Hmm.
Um, I guess if we
No
talk about
faith in your CLG boys, dude.
no, I not really. Um, I guess the short answer is no, honestly, like because I don't think they're as bad as people think, but that doesn't mean that I think they're good enough to really get out of their group or whatever. So that's why I
Hmm.
wouldn't put them down as a sleeper pick, honestly.
Yeah. If we're gonna talk about, we've obviously talked about the good teams in lock in. If we're gonna flip over to the bad teams in lock in, assuming, you know, if FlyQuest is gonna not have their imports, I think they're probably a team that's really gonna struggle. Considering, I think, this team initially last year was sort of built around Jose Diodo. Now they're bringing Takui in, who's this like big time LFL mid laner, who won MVP back in spring and finished second place, I believe, in summer. So to not have him or Jose Diodo potentially probably ruins their chances of winning any meaningful games, considering from what we saw last year, Kuma wasn't very good. Johnson wasn't very good, although he is being, paired up again with Aframu, and they did
Hmm.
have a lot of success together on Dignitas. I don't think it's going to be like instant success, them getting back together at least. So, like Quest,
Yeah,
I'm not expecting big things out of them.
I think FlyQuest is a tough sell right now, especially with how Johnson looked last year. The redeeming thing is that he's being paired with Aframu, like you mentioned, right? And that's a bot lane duo that I've been very vocal about. I thought was great when they were on Dignitas. Was I guess 2 years ago now. But I mean, that's really stretching to going back 2 years to expect the player to play that well. And then Kumo, like you said, I don't really have a lot of faith in Kumo. We've seen him in the league on a few different teams now, and I'm not that excited about Kumo whatsoever. I really thought that somewhere, somehow, they would find a better top laner than Kumo, but I'd be more than glad to be proved wrong. I'm just not buying it, so I'm not expecting good things out of FlyQuest. However, my pick for like what team I think will look the absolute worst is actually Dignitas. Um, I'm not very hot on top in support. I don't think that Biofrost looked very good the last time we saw him in the LCS. In fact, I thought that he really struggled his last split with TSM. And then same thing with Fake God. I think Fake God had a pretty good start to last spring. So just a year ago, he had a pretty good start to the spring, fell off pretty hard in the middle of the season and never really found it back. And I think the problem is when you have what I see as two holes in your lineup, you really need some firepower to be able to make up for that. If there was someone that would be that firepower, I would have said it's probably River with how we've seen him perform at
And then
Worlds,
he's not
and
here.
River's not going to be there. And so I don't think most people would think that I'd be cold on Dignitas because of Blue, and I know that that's largely the community sentiment is that Blue is like not deserving of being in the LCS, and why did we go and get one of the worst LEC mid laners? I don't have much of an opinion on Blue. I haven't watched enough of his games, or I don't remember enough of his games rather. So he's not the one that I'm mainly worried about. For me, it's Fake God and Biofrost, and I just don't see Dignitas coming out swinging in this one. I think they're going to be the worst team in the league this year.
Yeah. Similarly, just in terms of like roster outlook, I'm definitely not hot on CLG at all. Just mainly because of, I don't even want to say like the roster choices they made because they were probably presumably very limited. But running back Palafox in mid lane, or not running him back, but bringing him in when he was one of the worst mid laners in the LCS last split, he had a couple like pretty decent games where he was doing some carrying. But other than those, maybe like 4 or 5 games, he was kind of just inting. Jenkins is like a pretty big question mark in top lane. He showed, you know, a solid, 6 or 7
Yeah.
games when he was subbing in for Alfari on pretty much exclusively Gangplank and Akali. So I guess we'll have to see how he looks off those champions, or maybe those champions are still going to be in the meta. And then their bot lane, there's really not too much to talk about there. Their bot lane is basically 100 Thieves Academy bot lane from last year, and Luger and Poom. I know people are pretty hyped up on Luger just in terms of like him being a prospect. But I just think when you pair, these two rookie players in Jenkins and Luger with two heavily underperforming players in Palafox and Poom, it's really not going to be a good mix. And then throw in contracts in there. And I feel like we already kind of know who he is, and we've seen him on this style of a team back in Golden Guardians in season 8 after he, left Cloud9. He really struggled to play well and to work well with the team when he had weak laners because he was just doing the thing where you're like plugging too many holes on the ship and the ship's sinking with water and holes keep appearing, and it just doesn't work like that as a jungler.
I have some faith in Contracts and Jenkins. When I look at CLG, those are the two players that, if this team's going to have success, I think it's going to be mostly because of them. There's still a lot of people that not have not given up hope on Palafox, despite last year, just because I guess
It's only
the
been
year
1 year.
prior, their performance in Academy the year before, I guess. But for me, I'm not a buyer of Palafox. I didn't, like you said, there were some carry performances, but they were way too few and far between for
Yeah.
me to be excited about this player. With that said, I think most people are totally fine with what CLG has done because, my God, how can you do any worse than what they did last year, right? They
Mhm.
got in a bunch of veterans that couldn't win any games. At least you're kind of doing sort of what most people would consider a rebuild. And so, even though the sentiment around CLG is they don't expect amazing things, I think most people are still pretty happy that they went a different route from the good old fashioned get old, washed up players and just fail.
Yeah, no,
So
I definitely agree there. Like I do I very much prefer that they went, kind of young guns in terms of building their roster. However, I still think they could have picked a better mid laner and support at the very least. I think, support makes a little bit more sense because Poom only played what, like 10 games in the LCS. Yeah, he looked absolutely awful, but he basically went from amateur to LCS within like 4 months.
a
Um,
very short period of
yeah,
time.
and
Yeah.
the guy was clearly not ready. And at the same time, pairing him with his academy counterpart from last year is great, and that's probably going to have some already built-in synergy there. But mid is going to be a glaring weakness on this team for sure.
So who is your absolute bottom of the league team
CLG.
for this year? You think it's CLG still?
Yeah, I mean, I think
I
if
thought you were gonna go with FlyQuest.
I don't know, like it just matching up to Dignitas. Like if I match up CLG's roster against Dignitas's roster, I would rather have their support, AD, mid, and jungle.
Hmm. You'd rather have, so wait, say that again. Support
I
AD
would I would
mid
pref-
jungle.
I would
Everyone
rather
but top.
everyone but top. I would favor Dignitas, not by much,
Hmm.
but I would favor them. And I think similarly, you
Yeah.
compare CLG to FlyQuest. Like I would rather take Jose Diod over. Actually, maybe I wouldn't. Okay, not jungle. I would take mid, AD, support, and mid AD support.
What are we
FlyQuest is
talking about
closer.
here? From FlyQuest, you would
Yeah,
take those. I
yeah,
see.
it's close though. I
Yeah.
mean, I think like bottom three is going to be a tight race. The split for me with CLG, Dignitas, FlyQuest.
For me, I don't think Afro is anywhere close to those supports. I think he's way better than them.
Oh,
I
for
think he's
sure.
just been playing on bad teams. So I think it's very obvious that anyone would take Afro when it comes to those three squads. But I think we're in agreement that that's generally where you're looking for bottom of the league. I would maybe throw Golden Guardians in there, although I'm less confident in that. I think they're maybe slightly a little bit better. Um, but yeah,
I
definitely
got
not too
faith in
hyped.
Olive.
All right, who's winning the tournament, J&T?
100 Thieves. I
Yeah, that's what
think
I got as well.
that's. I mean, I guess I would say it's an easy answer. Maybe other people wouldn't say that, just because of the star powers of some of the other rosters. Like when you
Hmm.
compare it to an EG who gets inspired, and they're running back Danny with Vulcan, who is a presumed upgrade over Ignar. You could say yes or no to that. But and with TL, but I mean, we don't even know if TL's playing, their bot lane, and I think the bot lane is the strength of that team. But 100 Thieves, should they be playing all their players, they're gonna win. Uh, they were the best team last year in the LCS, performed decently at Worlds in that second week compared to the first week, and they just have the added benefit of playing together last year. They already have built-in synergies. They don't need to worry about like teamwork and communication as much as all the other new teams will have to. The only reason I foresee them not winning is if they want to do some top lane experimenting with tenacity.
Hmm. So I was going there next. Do you think it's? How do I
Tenacity
want
is
to
going to
ask this
play,
question?
yes.
Yeah, I think that they want him to be the starter. That's what
Oh,
I think when
that's
they
what I
made this
want.
move. I don't think this is we're not sure if we want Someday or Tenacity. I think it's they think Tenacity is better. But they haven't seen him play at the LCS level yet, and so let's give him a shot. And that's why it's, oh, we haven't really decided. I think as of right now, they think Tenacity will be the better top laner, and that's why they went with that. but they didn't want to bust, and so they were like, well, let's hold on to someday just in case. That's what I think. And of course, that's pure speculation. Just want to be clear about that. But yeah, that's what I think. The other thing that I want to mention.
Well, here, can I? Were you going to jump
Yeah,
off tenacity? I was just going to add
yeah, go
something.
ahead, go ahead.
Well, I was like, this is like the perfect litmus test for a player like tenacity who hasn't played at the LCS level, but isn't going up against like stellar competition in this lock-in tournament specifically. In his group, he's going up against Darshan, TSM's Academy top, whoever that is, Licorice, and Kumo. And, other than the TSM's Academy top, those are all like veterans of the league and have been around for multiple years. Darshan, literally the definition of a veteran, has been around for like 10 years at this point.
Yeah,
He's going to be solid. Darshan's not going to be great. He's not going to be bad. He's going to be solid. And that's similar, what we're kind of seeing with Licorice right now. Like, he's not as good as he once was. He's not bad by any means because he performed quite well in this Golden Guardians roster last year. He's solid. And then Kumu, like, he's like a 5 or a 6 out of 10, but like, that's a guy that you should beat. And like, that will be a good way to show tenacity that he does belong if he goes out and beats these other top laners. If I was Papa Smithy, I'd be playing tenacity the whole way. I wouldn't even play someday.
yeah. I think that's what we should expect. I wouldn't be
Oh shit,
surprised
Viper.
if regardless of how this tournament goes, if we see tenacity starting at the start of the split as well. Because I'll remind people that the record this year, spring records do not carry over into summer. And so I think that gives you a little bit more leeway of experimentation of what you want to do. Now, of course, you still want to win because you still want to get that crack of going to MSI and competing there. But my guess is I think they still want to go with tenacity. I think that not just for lock-in, I think that they're going to go with him to start the split as well, and then they'll make adjustments if they need to. If it's absolute disaster, then maybe they'll go with someday. But
Yeah, I think that's what we want. We want tenacity to start and then start the season, but I probably think it's going to be the reverse, where they're going to start
you think it's
someday,
someday?
and should anything go wrong, tenacity's coming right in.
Interesting.
Because
Interesting.
I guess the only reason to say that is if like why would you just sub someday out all of a sudden, unless
Well,
like
my question would be, why would you say that tenacity's on your starting roster if you just plan to go with someday?
well it just
Why would you
goes.
even change your roster? Like, why wouldn't tenacity still be your academy top laner? I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe they just think, he's going to learn more, playing with the team than not playing with the team. And maybe, as you said, they want him to be part of this team, but, they're going to sub him in a moment's notice should someday
Yeah.
show any signs of weakness.
Yeah, and back to what I said before. This is all speculation from us guys, but it will be interesting because replacing Someday is like this guy's been around, man. If you're replacing Someday, who's been how long has he been in the LCS for now? Is this is sixth year now? He's done 5, I think.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, start of the 6th year.
Yeah, so that would really be something if you're the guy to replace Someday on a team that just won the LCS as well. That's another thing. Like that would be pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Okay,
but
sorry,
anyway.
what were you going to say? I cut
I
you
don't
off.
remember.
Sick. Um, yeah, unless you can remember what you're going to say. I was just.
Oh, yes, I just wanted to say that even though we have the graphic up of, the TSM players, I did have, I just wanna say that, did we s oh, we said their roster earlier, didn't we?
Who's
Of
the
who's
roster?
playing. The TSM roster,
I
Viper,
didn't.
I'm
I
gonna
didn't
say it
read.
now.
I didn't read it out because I don't know what it is.
Okay, it's Viper, Hyper, Takeover, Instinct, and Yursan. I think I'm saying all those right. Um, I had that on that little graphic that
Yeah.
that white one, the ugly
Lamau
one that
LP
we
put
did.
it in the
The
chat,
other
but
ugly one, let's say.
yeah.
Oh, did he? I can't, dude. I'm so bad at reading live chat and doing that. I'm sorry, Lamau LP. I'm doing my best, but I'm just a terrible multitasker. Let's pull up
Um.
the odds. I want to show people what the odds look like. Just on betting sites, and the reason why I think this is relevant is because what this does, guys, is it kind of gives us it's really blurry, so we'll
Yeah.
say what they are. But what this does is it gives an idea of what the community thinks about these teams, right? So TL being the favorite kind of tells you, or being the lowest payout, you will, kind of tells you that most of the community thinks TL's taking this thing, and then 100 Thieves is the second favorite. But JNT, I'll let you go over them. Let people know just how favored or not favored some of these
Do
teams
you want me
are.
to actually say the number or just read it out in order? Because
Let's just go in order because the odds aren't that.
yeah,
Maybe yeah, just go ahead.
because based on the odds, the way that we can call it community quote unquote rates the teams, TL most likely followed by 100 Thieves, Cloud9 3, EG4, TSM5, IMT6, Golden Guardian 7, FlyQuest 8, Dig 9, CLG 10.
Yeah. And I guess to get just of how much of an upset it is for CLG to win this tournament. That's what this is which team's going to take the lock-in tournament.
Hmm.
CLG is 100 to 1. So that kind of gives you an idea of just how bad the community thinks they are,
Yeah,
or I power ranked them, if you will. So the
yeah.
community seems to think that CLG is the bottom feeder or whatever you want to call them, and then yeah,
Yeah,
and it is the
interesting
three
that.
teams that we mentioned, right? We had the FlyQuest, Dignitas, and CLG, like we mentioned. Those are the three teams that are the least favorite here.
Yeah, and I mean, just one thing to point out is like these. While these are, we get some sort of general sense of where people feel about the teams. This probably you would think doesn't necessarily include all the things we know now about who is playing roster wise, because it's quite surprising that Cloud9 are so far ahead of a team like Evil Geniuses when we know Cloud9 is going to be missing a lot of key pieces. Similar to Team Liquid, we don't really know, so those numbers might not
So
necessarily
here's
reflect that.
They do and they don't because like things can always change. Like if more people start to take Team Liquid, then that number is going to go lower and lower. But this is from today. The screenshot that I took here is from today, and so we've known for a little while now that C9 wouldn't be starting the roster, and so the odds on C9 were a little
And
bit
I'm
lower. The
just even
payout
more
rather was a
surprised.
little bit lower, and so it's gone up a little bit. But this is like I still think, regardless, people think C9 has a better chance of taking it over EG,
People got
myself
faith in
included.
LS.
Myself included, I actually think C9 has a better chance of taking it over EG. But I think I said this even before the off season started. Like EG's still like my team that I'm really, really excited to see. I think EG and C9 are the teams that I'm most excited for. TL close behind me just because of all the firepower that they have. But yeah, okay. Last thing before we get rid of this little graphic here, J&T, where's the value? If you were to put $5 on a team or two teams, if you will, which one are you taking?
Probably EG and 100 Thieves. I had to
So
pick
I
two.
I I actually did put $5 down on two separate teams, so I could say
Okay.
confidently that I would go with 100 Thieves and Immortals are the ones that I went to. Immortals getting 25 to 1 to win the
I thought
tournament.
about that, but like, let's be honest here. Nobody is going to win anything out of all the bottom 5 LCS teams. Like it's never going to happen.
Why not, man? This is
Listen to
okay.
me again.
This would be the time. Okay.
It's never going to happen.
Oh
They
my
are
god.
never going to win lock-in.
Now
None,
it will
none of
be
these
so
5
much
teams
better
are
if they
never going to
do.
win lock-in. None of these 5 teams are ever going to win spring. None of these 5 teams are ever going to win summer. Like,
It's lock in, man.
I'm just
Anything
saying
can
it's
happen.
just not going to happen though. You heard it here
I, the, th-
first.
So I agree that it is less likely to happen, but this will make it so much better. Like if one of these teams win J&T, you have to come back and clip this and play
Sure.
it in a future episode, please. Like
Sure.
it's too good. I mean, you're so confident that's not going to happen anyway, so you don't care.
Sure. Yeah.
My thought process is if they play this tournament 25 times, does Immortals win it once?
Nope.
Yeah, I think they do. If it's played 25 times, I think they win it once. So anyway, who knows?
Maybe if they played
Who
26
knows?
times.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
The
What's
last thing, well,
next?
the last thing I was just gonna say is, if you didn't know, but not surprising at all, the LCS did announce that the whole tournament is being played online because of COVID. Not really surprising at all. A lot of leagues around the world are going back to online because of COVID. Specifically, the LEC as well. They came out and said, out of player health and safety, they're going back online. So who knows if that even decreases the, what was I gonna say?
Hype?
Like, not even the hype, just like the players themselves care even less because it's online. It's like, it's online, whatever. Like,
I don't think that's the case. I think like regardless, this is a time because I don't even think the players look at this so much as a tournament they have to win, but I think they look at this as like we need to hit the ground running for the season to start. So like this is some of the best practice we're gonna get. And so that's why you take it serious, right? Because these are your quote unquote scrims before the year starts, and that matters a lot to teams. You don't want to start wasting your time or you don't want to get off to a bad start. So I don't think that will hinder any of the performances or attitudes or whatever it is personally, but I mean I guess I can't speak to every single player. The other thing too is we're not surprised by this. We all saw this coming as soon as Omicron hit like a month ago. I was like, I know
yeah,
that the LCS is not going to be back the way we want it to be. Also, do you remember me saying when they announced the spring finals were going to be in Houston? And I said, why even announce that? Because there's a chance that another variant pops up and that it's just now I realize that's still months away. I realize that. But this is a perfect example of like why even announce it? It's not like people are clawing their eyes out to get tickets to the spring finals in what it's like April? It's like 3
April
months away or
23rd,
whatever.
24th.
They announced it in like August or something.
Yeah, well, it was just the location.
Yes, I know.
And
I the thing is
some
I
people got to
won't.
plan in advance for that stuff.
Yes, I think Worlds is something you definitely have to, but like I don't know. I don't think that there's a good chance that it doesn't happen. Who knows? That's something we'll have to wait and see. And I guess I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but I won't be surprised if the next announcement due to COVID is that we can't do spring finals in Houston because blah 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 blah. Same old story that we've had for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Anyways, what's next, Jinter?
Yeah, well, I think will quickly run down, just quickly talk about some of the season 12 changes coming into the game because obviously, new season, new game, sometimes, not really this season. But there are some significant changes rolling out into season 12 or season 2020 as they call it, or 2022 as they call it, which is stupid. I don't know why they do
Yeah,
that. They just,
yeah. They
ever
want to
since
they want
season
to get away
10,
from the.
yeah, I don't like that. I don't like it at all. But
Yeah, it's season 12, but
yeah,
anyways.
new champions are in. From what we know, we haven't heard anything otherwise. Action and Vex, are going to be played. And from everything that I've
Finally.
heard from like pro player streams and everything, both of these champions are OP. So I think we're gonna see a lot of Action and Vex, similar to how we saw a lot of Gwen and Viego at the start of season 11, when these champions just kind of festered in the off season. There wasn't a whole lot of buffs and nerfs to them, and we're finally gonna see them pulled out in pro play, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh my god, they were so broken strong anyway." But like, come on, like everyone knows this is gonna happen. Specifically, Akshan, literally everybody's saying is completely broken.
Yeah, and can you believe Action came out like I don't even know how long ago.
Like 3 months
And
ago.
no, longer than that. Longer than that. He was in the last TFT set or whatever. When the heck was the last TFT set?
I don't know.
Anyways, he's been I'm going to guess August.
No, no,
I
no,
could be
no
wrong.
way. It's been that long.
No? Look it up. Look it up. I'm curious. I won't be surprised if it's before August
I
even.
think it
It's been
was.
quite some time.
Wait, it was. He got released on the 21st of July?
There you go, man. I
Dude.
told you.
When was Vex released? Vex was the 23rd of September. Wow, it's literally been 5 months.
Which is so
That's
crazy how long
crazy.
this champion has existed, and we still haven't seen him in pro play. And I mean, some people have probably been watching the LPL or what's the tournaments that they do over the holidays? What's that tournament called?
Oh, the VCS, they did their season over the holidays.
Oh
Oh,
no, man,
Megalo.
not that. Oh, XD. No, the Demacia Cup or whatever, right?
Oh, that thing, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I guess they've probably been played in that. I didn't really pay attention. But the point is, these champions have been out forever and we're finally going to see them. Now, that doesn't even mean that I'm like upset that we didn't see them because like your point, the point that you were making is like these champions on release are always so busted. And so
Oh, don't
maybe it's a good
worry.
thing we didn't see them for so long.
Don't worry.
They're still
Riot
busted.
said in their videos this offseason that their champions that they released, their kits aren't overloaded and that they're released in a balanced state. Don't worry, you.
I
Riot's
watched
got
that
us covered.
video. And I wasn't even upset that they said that. I was just more upset that they thought they could say that and not let it grow into some meme. I was like,
Dude,
"Oh no, you can't say that." I was like, I know if there's one thing I know, the community is not going to like that you said that they don't think their kits are overloaded. I was like, this is going to be the next 200 years meme. And
dude, when the
it's not
dislike
that big of a
button,
meme, but it's a pretty big meme.
like when the dislike button still existed on YouTube, like people dislike bombed the shit out of that video. I remember it was at like almost 100K dislikes, like within a week.
Uh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay. We're carrying on here. Other big changes that have come into the game. The new dragons, obviously, I think are the biggest one from this new season. We have the Hextech Drake and the Chemtech Drake. For whatever reason, if you don't know what they do, I'll just say it very quickly. Hextech Drake gives you ability haste and attack speed, and like a static shiv like auto attack when you get the soul. And Chemtech Drake, it creates these, camouflaged zones on the map. You get Scion passive when you die. You deal percentage more
That's for
damage to.
Soul, the Scion passive, just to
Yeah,
clarify.
the Soul gives you Scion passive, which is uber broken. Nobody likes the Chemtech Drake, both the Soul and the map, and even the individual dragons, because they're pretty much useless. When
The
ahead,
individual dragons are tank busters, right?
yeah,
It's like 6% to people that have more health than you or something?
yeah, it's a percentage extra damage when your person you're attacking has more health than you. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like useless when ahead and only good when behind, and not even that good if there's no tanks in the game. And there are very few tanks in the game just overall right now. So
Yeah. And well, I wonder if part of that, so stop me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that for the preseason, they made it so that the Chemtech and Hextech Drakes were more commonly spawned so people learned to play with or around them. Is that right? Am I
um,
making things up?
I
I'm pretty sure
don't
they said that they increased the chances of those Drakes being the soul.
I don't
That
know about that for normal games and everything like that, but I know on Ultimate Spellbook you could only get the Chemtech Drake and Hextech
ah.
Drake Soul. So I don't
Okay,
know about normal
well,
games because at that time I was playing a lot of Spellbooks. So
don't take it for I guess what I'm saying is I'm not 100% on that, but I think that was the case. And so that could have technically warped the preseason meta, and so maybe that'll change. My guess is since they still have all the drakes that like it should be 1 in 6 chance of getting each dragon individually. Um and I would say that that would probably be the most impactful change on the game if it was more common than 1 out of 6, I guess in this case 2 out of 6 dragons, but I'm thinking the Chemtech one is the most ridiculous one.
yeah.
I think that it would have a more of a crazy impact on the game if it was happening more than 1 in every 6 games. Um, but because it only happens like I don't think it'll have that much of an impact on the game just because of how many games you'll have to play to get that Drake. Whereas like what we were talking about before with Action and Vex, I think that the champions themselves will have the largest impact on the meta and on the game altogether going into the season,
hmm
honestly.
The last thing, just to really talk about in terms of big changes, which is my personal one that I think is going to have the biggest change, are the teleport changes. So basically, they made some pretty big changes to teleport to where pre 14 minutes, is it 15 minutes? 14 minutes?
14, I think. Pretty
Pre
sure it's 14.
14 minutes, you are only allowed to teleport to ally towers. And then after that, you get what is called unleashed teleport, which is just basically what teleport used to be,
Teleport
where
is,
you
yeah.
could teleport to ally towers, ally wards, ally minions, ally pets, ally, you know, creatures that you can spawn in. Um, so those are really the big changes that I think is going to have a huge impact, mainly because we've just seen how broken teleport as a summoner spell is for basically the last like 4 or 5 years. There's been points in the meta where teams are literally taking upwards to 4 teleports on their team, where we would see, I remember back in season 8, we would see top take TP, mid take TP, 80 take TP, and support would go spellbook to take TP multiple times throughout the game because, season 8 and season 9 really just like really changed the meta of this whole early game fighting, contesting early objectives, contesting vision and everything. And with these teleport changes, you're not going to be able to see both teams go for offensive plays where, you're going to be tower diving somebody and you also bring your top laner to TP down, or use it defensively to, if you're getting tower dived, you can have your mid and top TP, to your own minions or tower to defend it. So it's really going to be, I feel like a much more different game in the early game, and we'll have to see if players maybe opt for more combat summoners in their lanes, whether or not we see a lot of ignite top lane, because we have seen a little bit of ignite top specifically in the last year with champions like Akali, champions like Camille. Um, so it'll kind of just be a guessing game of what summoner spells people are going to take with regards to what champion they have, or what the play style of the game is going to be like. Because if we see a lot of ignite in the top lane, we're going to be seeing a whole lot of early tower dives with enemy junglers maybe coming up level 3, level 2, stuff like that. We could see a lot of exhaust, which might bring like a ton of bruisers in the top lane. Like, I feel like this could go like a number of different ways, but the most likely scenario probably is that people just continue to run TP, but the early game will just be maybe a bit less aggressive.
Yeah, so my gut instinct when I see this is I hate the change. I will say that I'll wait and see, and I don't want to have a biased opinion before we even see what the game looks like. I want to give it a couple of months and see how I think like the change to teleport has impacted the game before I give a real opinion. But my instinct is I hate this. I really liked the idea that a top laner could force, like, if a top laner got an advantage on you in lane, he would force you to TP and be able to save his own, which would give pressure around the map. Now you could use the TP advantage that you gained in lane to influence other lanes. So like that was an area where like yes, you're running TP as a top laner, but you could actually start carrying the game from the top lane with just the pressure just by winning lane. And I liked that almost any role in the game, or pretty much any role in the game, could have the opportunity to carry games. I feel like this takes away from that a little bit with how common it was to run TP in the top lane. So there's that. The other thing that I want to mention, and I wanted to talk about this before when we were talking about 100 Thieves, but I held back because I knew we were going to talk about this, is I think 100 Thieves is actually the most affected team by this in the league. For those that don't remember, 100 Thieves always, always, always was very proactive and making that TP play in the bot lane. Their bot lane was usually winning lane because they're a really good bot lane, and they would force that dive bot, and that's where they would get a lot of their advantages. So even though I predict 100 Thieves to win the lock-in tournament, and I think they're one of the better teams we have in our league, I do worry about this change for them specifically because I think they were one of the best teams in the LCS at utilizing the early TP. And so that's where I'm a little bit Monka s for 100 Thieves. Um, I think they'll be the most affected.
Yeah, I do think, it's just really going to depend on the direction that ends up being taken, because I see it just going one of two ways, kind of. There's going to be the way where everyone still takes TP, everything is still the same, but the early game just gets very slowed down pre 14 minutes. We're seeing less fighting, we're seeing less early contesting, and it might just all be about strictly lane phase. Kind of playing safe. If you're the scaling team, or if you're the team that is running like a tank utility top laner, you're probably gonna like just lose your lane, go down 20 CS, and be playing for late game. But then we're going to see this other side of the coin, maybe, where we're going to see a lot of combat summoner spells in both mid and top, and that might kind of help the teams that have these more aggressive mechanical, top laners. The main person that I'm looking at, I think, in that regard is Cloud9, because I think it's very clear that this team is going to be like a very mechanically proficient and aggressive team. I think that was one of the main reasons why LS and I think the rest of the community is really high on Summit, because his laning was super, super great. He was one of the best laners in the LCK, people said. Again, this is not my opinion. This is what other people have said. And he wasn't too far behind, like the likes of Nuguri back in season 10, and the likes of like a Khan and whatnot. Like he was kind of like that step down from those top echelon, those top tier laners in the LCK. So I personally like the changes. I do think the meta and the overall flow of games has become a little bit stale and kind of just rinse and repeat. Like, oh, we have pressure in our lane, let's go TP and dive them. Oh, we're kind of losing the lane. Like, yo, top laner, come TP down to our lane. Oh, it's dragon time. Everyone TP. Like, I don't know. Like I just
Mm.
I like this mainly because I think it's gonna bring like a shakeup in the meta. Because I don't think without these changes, I think we're gonna see a very similar meta to season 11. And I kind of like the tempo of the game to be a bit screwed up by this change, and we're gonna see a lot of experimentation, I think.
I think we'll have to see more mobility, which seems like every year we're looking like the meta just becomes more advantageous to those with mobility.
Yeah.
But let's say you're able to run a top laner that can run Ignite or Exhaust or something like that, but can also have a lot of mobility and get down to the dragon fight in time. That's something that will be really, really valuable if there's a champion that's not too weak to be able to do something like that. So, and range, as Lamau LP points out in
Yeah,
the live
and
chat.
we'll have to see if champions like Shen or champions like Galio just like shoot up in priority because of how
I would have to
impactful
imagine Shen.
those ults are. Because like
Yeah.
the main way that you'd have to like if Galio is ulting bot lane, or if Chen is ulting bot lane, like you either need to respond with your TP to try to save that play, or you just got to accept that you're probably going to lose that fight and then push your lane and reset or whatever. So we could see a lot more global ultimate champions, like a Twisted Fate. Even like that champion might be even more broken than it already was at the end of season 11 because of these TP changes.
Yeah, I've always been one to say that I think Shen is just great for pro play, and I think this change obviously makes him just much more better because he's got that TP built into his kit, so to speak.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, what can I say? Now we were gonna bring back Pop Off and Bean Soup. this week. However, J&T, I can't even tell you what my pop off is. I couldn't come up with one seriously about the changes for uh for the changes to season 12. Do you have one? I legit don't have one.
I like the TP changes personally.
Yeah, see, I feel like I'm a negative Nancy this week because I didn't like any of the changes really. I didn't feel like we needed new dragons. I didn't really feel like we needed new items. But again, like I said
Oh, we
before,
definitely did not need the new dragons. That is for sure. That sucks. Bean soup. Chemtech Drake sucks. Hextech Drake is just like boringly annoying. Like it's just like, oh, there's a portal. Oh, thanks. They're in my jungle already. Thank you very much. They've gotten into my
like
jungle
I
within 5
said,
seconds from the enemy base.
I will. I have gut instincts that I don't like these things, but I will try to refrain judgment. I'll try to give them a fair shot, if you will. I'll see how the games are going and see if I really do like these kinds of things. But for now, most of it I don't really like, and I think, like I said, bean soup for me is the TP until 14 minutes. I don't like that at all. I really don't like that change. Um, but again, we'll see. We'll see.
Okay.
What's next, Jinter?
Well, we got some 90-50-10 predictions,
Prediction time.
which is a very common thing to do, I guess, on Reddit and Twitter. Feel like it's kind of like a year-round thing. Like when the season starts, when MSI starts, when World starts, everyone throws out their little 90-50-10 predictions. If you don't know what that is, it's basically just a prediction that you have 90% confidence in, 50% confidence in, and 10% confidence in.
Okay. We should go all three of them at a time, and then let the other person pick them apart. You good to do it that way?
Sure.
You want me to start, or you want to start?
I'll start.
Go for it.
Wait, do you want to start at 90 or start at 10?
Yeah, 90, 50, 10.
Okay, 90%. Team Liquid will win the split.
Oh, okay.
It's gonna happen. Like,
Oh, wait till you hear mine.
okay, well that's mine. So there
Yeah,
you
go
go.
ahead. What's 50? What's 50?
Oh, that's how you wanted to do it.
Yeah,
Okay.
go 90, 50, 10.
50%. TSM will finish outside of top 6,
Okay. Wow.
meaning they won't make spring
You think it's a
playoffs.
50? Yeah, wait, you're talking for spring for both of them, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
That's kind
then
of surprising. Outside of top 6, 50, 50. Wow. Okay.
and then 10%. Fudge is actually as good as he says he is and will be the MVP.
Okay, 10%.
I don't know,
Whoa!
dude. I got faith in Fudge.
I like the bold prediction. So I can't get behind your 50%.
What,
I
that
don't think
TSM is
there's a
not going to be
50.
outside of top 6?
I think that there would be more likely to be a 10% chance that TSM is outside of the top 6. So
Well, here's my thing.
you're
Well, what I'll say is
yeah, go
this
ahead.
is some.
Defend your point before I tear it apart.
Well, this has been, I wouldn't say heavily influenced by, but somewhat influenced by the fact that in TSM's statement, they said that their team hasn't played together at all.
Mhm.
And, there's going to be a huge language barrier on this team because I think they said this team is going to presumably speak in Mandarin, and then Speaka is basically going to be in game translating for them, saying, oh, this is like, this guy said this guy said this, here, Huni, and Tactical. So, from what we know, I believe this team hasn't played together at all. They're also going to be speaking 2 languages during game, and that's usually not a recipe for success. I know I will cede the point that this is a fairly common thing, and we do see a lot of successful teams do this over in the LPL and the LCK. I think if I remember correctly, IG, when they won Worlds, spoke 2 languages on that team, both Chinese and Korean, when they had the Shy and Rookie. So that was obviously a very successful team. They won Worlds, but those are individually some of the best players in the world. Whereas look at this TSM roster, I just don't really have a lot of confidence in it. And I think with the barriers that they already have, with their team not being together at all, having no practice, and them having to speak 2 languages, is just not a recipe for success.
Okay. So let me say that I can see a world where this happens. I just don't like that that's your 50%. I could see this being more of a 10%, maybe a 20, I don't know, but I definitely don't think that this is a 50% chance that TSM finishes out of the top 6. I guess my first question, and I guess not so much, I said before to tear it apart. That's not really my goal here. My main goal is to like pick your brain here to kind of challenge it. My question is, who is going to finish ahead of them for them to finish 7th or worse?
Immortals and Golden Guardians.
Okay. So I don't see a world where Golden Guardians is better. I could see a world where Immortals is. I don't see a world where Golden Guardians is better than TSM. I'm not going to go too far into it because we've kind of already done that with Golden Guardians. I I just don't think that their roster's that good. Again, I mentioned my doubts about Licorice. I mentioned my doubts about Lost and Ole. That's three big enough question marks for me to say that I don't think they will be better than TSM. Now, that doesn't mean that I have full confidence in TSM because I do think there is good reason to be a little bit weary. But I think there's also some good reason to be optimistic that they come from what is probably the best solo queue region, maybe second best, I suppose. But definitely one of the better regions, and from a region where clearly they have a lot of players to pick from as far as their development is concerned from the LDL. I don't think you can just completely write off these players and say that you take some of the best prospects from China and that they're going to finish bottom of the LCS. That would be pretty surprising, although possible.
LPL
Um,
imports don't have the best track record over here.
okay, sure. The other thing is, and I even though I don't agree with it, I love it. The licorice, or excuse me, the fudge
I don't know.
MVP one.
I thought it was funny.
Yeah, I do like it. I do like it. I just don't necessarily agree with it. Um, that would be amazing. And the other thing too is you got to remember, like, there's a lot of people, myself definitely included, that had doubt in Fudge last year, and so I'm a little bit hesitant to to doubt him again. But a role swap into MVP, I don't know, man. I just don't see it happening. But I definitely like your uh, I don't know, guts, I guess.
Dude, they're bold predictions. Like,
Yeah,
come on.
yeah, yeah. No, by all means.
I'm not gonna pick some
Um,
boring shit. Like, that'd be
yeah,
whack.
no, I'm right there with
What
you.
about
So
what
wait,
about my TL 90%? They're gonna win spring.
well, that's mine.
Oh shit.
That's why I was laughing before. Is mine was Team Liquid wins a split.
Oh, a split.
90% confidence that they're
Okay.
gonna win a
If it's
split.
a
Like,
split, it's gonna be 100%.
I don't think it's 100%.
Oh, dude. Hey, I said this
I could see
before.
100 Thieves winning both. I could see 100 Thieves and Cloud9 splitting. I could see, like, there's a lot of there's a lot of different possibilities, I would say.
Yeah.
I think it's 90% sure that TL is going to win a split, though. I think that by the end of the year, they're going to be the best team. That's my pick, anyways. My 50-50 is EG goes to Worlds.
Oh, so you're going whole year. Okay, I was just doing spring, but
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. You could do
yeah,
whatever
yeah.
the hell
Oh,
you
yeah.
want. Any
hmm
predictions for the year? So, like I said, I'm really, really interested in the EG lineup. Um, but I do have some worries. I will remind that even though you and I continue to have faith in Impact in summer, he did not have the greatest summer split. Um, I don't want to forget that Impact has been one of the most solid players in the LCS since he joined. I don't want to just completely discount that, but I do worry once I see people have what I would say is mostly a bad split um, for his level of gameplay. It wasn't like it's not like he was a bottom, like a 10th place top laner. But the point is that I definitely didn't think Impact lived up to what we've come to expect from Impact last year in summer specifically. The other thing is, I would say the same thing about Vulcan. And even though it's hard for support, especially a playmaking support, which was what we used to see at a Vulcan, to make plays on a team that's just struggling, especially when I mentioned many times that I didn't think Blabber looked that great. Half the games, Blabber was running it down and looked really inconsistent. It's hard to shine on a team that is very like hit or miss in the early game. So I'm willing to give Vulcan another shot, but I'm not full confident that he will be the level of Vulcan that we've seen as well. And so those are two kind of question marks that I have for this lineup. And I haven't even gotten into the two rookies, or I guess Danny's like sophomore, I guess.
Sophomore. But it is the sophomore slump.
But
That's a real thing.
the point stands that like these are not absolute known quantities what you're getting from Jojo Pyun and from Danny, even though we've seen some really promising things from both of them. Now, I would also say that one of the best things you could do for young players like this is to put them around veterans like Vulcan, Impact, and Inspired, who a lot of people, myself included, continued to say that he was the best Western jungler last year. So there's lots of reasons to be optimistic and lots of
Ego
reasons to be
abuser.
pessimistic. Lots of reasons to be pessimistic about this team. And so that's why I put them at the 50-50. My 10% is that Cloud9 reaches their goals. because I will remind people that LS said that they should win both splits, if I'm not mistaken. And was it make semis at Worlds?
That feels more unlikely than the fudge thing.
Yeah, I'll
It's
say. I'll say.
like a 1%er right there, dog.
Yeah, and anyways, I guess that's maybe why I couldn't be too hard on your 10% for fudge. Um, I can't believe I love that he came out with that prediction. I just think, or not even prediction, expectation or whatever. I just that's a lot to live up to, man. When there's so many question marks on Cloud9.
Yeah, like I know I remember when we
Like,
were talking about
whoa,
this back on the
man.
Weldon CLG days, like it was like pretty idiotic of him to set like these very lofty goals, and those are some pretty lofty goals for LS and Cloud9, but I don't think that's out of reach in comparison to, what Weldon said back then, saying how that CLG was going to be the best team in this LCS when they were literally the 10th place team.
So sorry to cut you off, but Lamau LP in the live chat's helping me out here with what LS said. He said anything less than semis is a disappointment.
Hey,
So thank you for that.
there's a good
Yeah.
chance you're going to get disappointed there, bro.
That's what I think too. That's what I think. I think this is crazy. So I was very critical of Blabber last year. Nothing's changed. Like, I mean, the offseason happened. We haven't seen much. I still don't think have that much confidence in Blabber, even though we have seen him be one of the greatest junglers at some point
Dude,
in
it's
his
it's
career.
spring split. Blabber pops off every spring split.
Yeah, unfortunately, to make it to semis, you have to play better for much more than just the spring split.
Hey,
So I'm definitely worried there. You got fudge role swapping. You got possible language barriers. The list goes on of like I don't even know what to expect. We don't know when all the players are going to show up. There's so many like ohs, and even though I mentioned before, like I don't think Cloud9 should just be forgotten. I don't think they should be held up as this automatic team like LS is putting out there to win spring and summer and then not make semis at Worlds. Like that is a lot to live up to. And I love the spice, but I don't see it happening, and so I gave it the 10%.
yeah.
Anything you need to flame there, JNT.
No, you got to respect LS for just going out and, speaking his mind in terms of what he, how he believes in these players that he's brought in and this team that he's going to build with Summit, Winsome, and Berserker. LS is like, he's hyping up Berserker. Like, he said Berserker is the next Gumayushi, basically. Like, he said to what Gumayushi was before Teddy, like, that's what Berserker is to Gumayushi. So that's like some pretty, like, big shoes to fill, considering what is it fair to say that Gumayushi's probably like the best AD in the LCK right now, or at least going into this next season? Like,
I don't know because I didn't watch enough LCK to have like a strong opinion.
well, I mean,
I
just
watched a fair amount, but not enough to say with full confidence.
I guess just based off of what we saw from him at Worlds in comparison to the rest of the world, like he was playing really well. So,
Like, if you were to ask me, and again, remember Gen G fan, but I would probably go with Ruler before I took Gumayushi. But
oh,
I
that's
don't
true.
I don't feel that confident because again, I only watched about half of the LCK games last year, maybe a little bit less than half. So, eh, I don't feel that confident. If anyone told me I was crazy, I'd be like, fine, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. There's too many question marks around Cloud9. But I will say though, is that when someone comes out and makes like predictions like that or holds themselves to that kind of standard, I think LS has done a better job of hyping up the LCS year than anyone on the LCS broadcast or staff or any of the
True.
other LCS teams or anything. He's done the best job of it. And so the season hasn't started yet. Not even lock-in hasn't even started yet. And I think we're already seeing some of the benefits of having LS in the league as a coach. So I mean, what can you say? It's kind of pog. Maybe I'll give him the pop off that I didn't have before because his predictions for his own team is kind of hype, and it makes me more excited to watch Cloud9.
Yeah, I mean, he's either going to be the biggest five head or he's just going to get like memed
Oh,
into oblivion.
it's
And
not even a
just
three
for
head look. It's like a 2.5 or
yeah,
one.
just for his sake, I hope Cloud9 pops off because the community is going to ream him if
Yeah,
if he's like if he's the reason why Cloud9 like goes into the dumps.
he is 1.5 head if they fall apart. But I mean, that's why you got to give props, right? Because someone like he knows the that if things go bad, people are going to point to him.
Mhm. And
He
he's
knows
he's
that.
taking a big risk. But what I will
And he
say
didn't
is,
have to. That's the other
yeah.
thing too. I know we've talked about this before, but he didn't have to. He is set doing his co-streams and just watching the leagues and just doing his own content. He did not have to jump into a coaching role in what is obviously the worst of the major regions, but he did and then predicts big. So anyway,
Mhm.
I'm done going on about it, but it's pretty pog.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it'll just be interesting to see how Cloud9 as a team just kind of plays out. One thing that I always am a believer in is if you're gonna do something out of the ordinary, or out of the meta in terms of a perceived play style, whether or not we see like some very obscure champion picks from a guy like LS, who is very vocal about these kind of wacky champions who he always puts in like his S tier, Z tier champion tier lists. I'm all for either going 100% full force into the off meta stuff or not doing it all. I don't think you should be like somewhere in the middle there, like half committed to this different style and like half committed to like the meta. Like I see it as go completely that one way, or go the other way. So I'm kind of glad, in that sense, that we're going to see probably a much different look at a Cloud9 than the rest of the league, and that'll just make it interesting.
Yeah. Nothing else to flame about my 90-50-10?
You picked the same one as me, so you're boring. You copied me.
Dude, as soon as you said it, I was like, God damn it. I mean, what
You
else could you
copied me.
do? Like, let's try to think about this real quick. What else could you do for a 90%?
CLG is
What
going to
else
be the
is
10th
like
place team. It's actually 100%. My bad. Sorry. I can't even do it at 90 because it's 100%.
Nice. I
It can be
like
the
that.
90. It can be the 90 and the 10 combined.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
On that note, who is your team at the end of the year? Who's your number one team? Who do you think is the number one seed representing NA at the end of
Team
the year? I'll ask
Liquid.
your prediction for that. So your TL and
I
CLG
I
are
I
1 and 10.
I just really can't see a world where they're not winning. Like,
I'm
honestly.
going.
The, on-
Yeah, for me it's TL and
the only
Big for
world
my 1 and
the only
10.
world is Cloud9. Like, it just works and they pop off, and Summit is that good and Fudge is that good and Berserker is that good. That's the only world I see it in, because I think just like pound for pound, TL in comparison to the other top rosters in EG 100 Thieves, maybe TSM, I don't know, I don't count them. Just like straight up player for player, they have the best roster.
Yeah, or unless TL has food poisoning, as Lamau points out in the live chat.
Or they all get
Very,
migraines like Santorin.
very possible. We'll give that a 10%er of that happening. And I will say that I still think there is a chance that 100 Thieves can compete with them by the end of the year, but I'm still going TL as number 1 and Dignitas, as I mentioned earlier, as the number 10 team. Um, I have a little bit more faith in CLG than you, but
CLG
I will
sucks
remind
balls.
people I am not a CLG fan anymore. Or at least I don't have to be, I guess. I don't know. It is
Yeah,
nice
they
to not
suck
be held to
balls.
that anymore. I feel a lot more free.
Okay, moving along.
I'll have to figure out another team to commit myself
No more
to this
CLG
year.
talk. Moving along.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. What's next?
We'll go into the quick news. We're gonna keep it very quick. Our goal this year is to try to make quick news actually quick, because it's never quick. So, first up, there's only two things. Mark Z posted a little update video on YouTube talking about a bit of an LCS broadcast update. He was basically saying that he's no longer going to be a permanent member on the broadcast, and that's been unfortunately due to the broadcast shifting back down to 2 days as opposed to 3 days. Basically, there's two permanent people on the broadcast now with the rotating third, and he's presumably in that rotating third. So we're definitely going to see a lot less people on the LCS broadcast this year, which is just kind of weird considering that they did like this whole big broadcast expansion last year where they added a bunch of people like Emily Rand and everything, and they had a ton of rotating people, including, pro players who had played earlier in the day and then kind of joined the desk for the remainder of the games afterwards. It just, feels like the broadcast is going to be a bit smaller now. So I kind
So
of like
I
that.
think, yeah. I'm sad because obviously I'm a big fan of Mark, but I think one of the reasons is, and I've heard different personalities say so many times that they want to try to get more players on the desk after their games or something like that. I feel like they probably don't want a crowded analyst desk if they're going to have players on. I mean, we still don't know if that's happening, but if that's the goal, I could see that being one of the reasons as to maybe why he's not full time anymore. The other thing is, like, who do you think are going to be the full timers on the desk?
Well, obviously this doesn't include Dash because he's the host, but
Right.
I would assume it's gonna be. Oh wait, actually, I was gonna say if it's two permanent people, then that doesn't mean like Azale and Kobe and all those guys are gonna be on there because they'll be the rotating person.
Yeah. Well, and they also could
Jat.
be like casters as well. So that's where I
Jat's
was going
coming
with
back.
this. I could see Jad. That's where I was going with this. I
I
could
want
see
to. I'd
Jad.
rather him cast though than be on the desk.
I could see Emily being
Oh,
there
oh yeah, Emily Rand's one of those people,
because
100%.
she's new, but she did a
Oh,
great
she's
job. A
great.
lot of people really liked Emily
She's
there
great.
as well.
Yeah, she's one
Yeah,
of those two people, 100%.
I know that they let go of. Did they let go of Crumbs or
Now
did
he like
Crumbs retire?
retired, whatever.
I just remember he tweeted out saying that he was no longer going to be part.
I
So I
don't
know
even
it's not
remember who
Crumbs.
was on the broadcast team last year at all because I didn't watch that shit.
Well, and what did we watch, J&T? Let's get into that.
We
Perfect
watched
segue here.
the co-streams. Just this morning, the LCS kind of put out a statement with regards to the LCS watch parties, as they call it, which is just what the co-streaming is. And we kind of got some bad news on that front because they said that co-streams are only going to be allowed during the lock-in tournament, LCS Super Weeks, which have not explicitly been said, but are presumed to be the first week of the season, week 1, the middle week of the season, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because there's 8 weeks. So whether that's week 4 or 5, whatever, and the last week of the season, week 8, plus the playoffs for both spring and summer. So that kind of sucks because
Yeah,
we have pretty much exclusively watched the co-streams for almost the last, I would say, year and a half. Not exclusively, but 80% of the time,
mostly.
we're 80 to 85% of the time, we are watching the co-streams, and we're usually watching that trio of Doublelift, Meteos, and Sneaky. And to hear that they're not going to be running the co-streams on just normal LCS weekends kind of sucks because there's going to be times where we're going to have like days where there's going to be no marquee matchups and it's going to be bad team versus bad team and then like top team versus bad team, and there's going to be no like C9 versus Team Liquid or C9 versus TSM or EG versus 100 Thieves or 100 Thieves versus Team Liquid. Like there's just going to be days where like it's going to be stale as shit. And to have like there be no funnies in the background with Doublelift, Meteos, and Sneaky, it's just gonna, I feel like, make me less likely to like want to watch these games and like be less interested in them.
So I agree is the short form, but obviously I got to go into it a little bit more than that. Um, I loved the co-streams. I thought they were absolutely hilarious. And I mean, I told you, J&T knows because a lot of times we watch the games together. I am sometimes like hysterically laughing at some of the shit that they
Mm-hmm.
do on those co-streams. So like, there's a lot of good that came out of those. However, I can totally see why they stopped the co-streams, and that's because there was a lot of flame that would happen. Um, God, there was so much flame, especially usually from Double Lift. However, my thought process here is like, what did you think would happen? Like, has Doublelift ever not given his honest opinion? Has he ever, like, his mantra is everyone else is trash? What did you think was going to happen when you decided to do co-streams and you were allowed, like, that's the part that I don't get is like, they do the co-streams and they're like, oh, like maybe this isn't a bad idea because they're bashing all the players. Like, I guess I just thought that we could have seen this coming from a mile away, that they were gonna flame players when they're playing bad. And the thing is, it's not like it's only flame. Like, don't get me wrong, I do think that there was too much flame from them, but there was a lot of times that they're like, "Oh my god, this player is popping off." And even on Hotline tonight, um, Peter Dunn was mentioning how Jizuke was getting hard flamed, and that is true. But I also do remember that once Jizuke started to play better, they did give him a lot of praise as well. And I think that there's like maybe a little bit too much focus on the negative, despite that I do think they were too negative at times. I think that saying that they were only negative comments doesn't really properly paint the picture of what was coming out of the co-streams. But there's other issues on top of that as well. Like you were talking about J&T about like if there's boring teams to watch. For me, I don't think that they did a good job of making those games more hype, which I think you could get out of casting from like Captain Flowers, for example. So I actually think that getting rid of the co-streams is better for when it's FlyQuest versus Immortals or whatever it is. I actually think that the regular broadcast would do a better job for those, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit. Um, my opinion is a little bit biased, obviously, because for me, there's not a whole lot that I gain from watching the broadcast in terms of understanding the game and learning what's going on. And like, not to say that like, oh wow, like this fucking guy is on his like high road and I'm so knowledgeable and shit. It's just like at a certain point, it does get a little bit repetitive. Like, we know what's going on, like, we know what's happening. I know what's happening at least. So I always enjoyed that little co-stream banter within, and us getting individual opinions from a double lift, from a sneaky, from a media. So when a play happens, or a player is doing something, or a player has built this certain item, and they have like a little mini discussion about it, as opposed to when you're watching the normal broadcast, like, they got to keep the flow of the game going. They got to talk about what they need to talk about. And so I always found that extra value in those little, small, quick 30-second to 1 minute conversations that those players have throughout the games. And I feel like that's something that's going to be really missed, going into only having to watch the broadcast on certain weeks. And the coach rooms really helped to fill a lot of dead space that there was in a lot of these LCS games. Like, we would see some fucking snooze fests during these games where there would be like, I don't know, it would be like CLG versus like Dignitas, and it would be like 5 kills to 1 at 30 minutes into the game, and people are like flipping Baron and flipping Dragon Soul, and it was just like a huge fiesta. And then you just have like the co-streamers, like, they're just laughing because of how horrible this gameplay is, and rightfully so, because like, this is clearly
Yeah.
not what you need to be doing to win the game. They still do it anyway, and it's just like, at a certain point, like, the entertainment that you get from that is just kind of like outweighs the like professional casting. So I don't know. I do agree with you though. I think there are some benefits to this. Like, it's not all bad. I think it is good that, like, I do also think you're correct in that it probably adds a little bit more professionalism in terms of these more bottom tier games that are clearly, these aren't the top teams and this isn't the best gameplay, but the casters do a really good job of keeping the game on track, focused, and, keeping people invested in the game despite whatever might be going on. But at the same time, like, I feel like for the viewership, like, this has got to be like a really weird thing, because you would have to think that a lot of people wanted to watch the LCS or wanted to watch these co-streams because their favorite personality was doing it. Because
Yeah.
Doublelift was streaming the LCS and co-streaming it, like, oh, I'm a fan of Doublelift, but I'm not really a fan of the LCS. Now I'm going to watch the LCS because of Doublelift. And now you're just not going to do that. Like, if you're not a person who's interested in LCS, but you are interested in Doublelift, like, now there's even less opportunity for that person to get exposure to the LCS broadcast. And I feel like it's basically like a neutral negative here in terms of viewership. Like, at the best, you're going to retain all these co-streaming viewers that just jump back to the broadcast. And at worst, you're going to lose a solid percentage of these viewers because they're not invested in the broadcast and the product itself. They were just invested in the personalities.
Yeah, I wonder that as well. And the reason why I was holding back some of my laughing is because I started thinking about some of the conversations that would happen, that I'm not going to talk about because they're kind of inappropriate. But that's the idea, is like they were inappropriate things to talk about during like commercials for Honda or something
Yeah.
like that. Like, so that's something that was like really, really funny. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely loved it because the timing could not have been more hilarious. But a sponsor doesn't want to hear about some of the things they did in high school while they're trying to highlight like their Honda cars or whatever, the Dragon car or whatever the hell's going on. Like, those are some of the conversations that you just can't have. And so, as funny as it is, and as sad as I am that I'm gonna like that we're gonna miss that stuff, I can totally see why that's just another reason why they would get rid of the co-streams, at least for a little bit anyway.
So much for quick news.
Yeah. Well, it's still pretty quick. I don't. Here's the thing with quick news. I think the issue with our quick news isn't that it wasn't quick. It was that there's too many things, man.
Yeah, no,
Like,
that
if
we
there's
usually add a
conversation
lot
to
of
be
things.
had, we should have that conversation. That's what I think we should tell people of how we're going to try to change quick news this year. Is it's not that we necessarily need it to be shorter, but like I think we're just throwing in way too many things in quick news. So I think that's going to be our goal for this year as far as quick news is concerned. Is not so much to shorten the time necessarily, even though I think that'll be a byproduct, but just less things that people just don't give a shit about. So, anyways, is that it for? That's it, right?
Yeah.
That's it for the episode. So our episode was a little bit shorter, as we're also going to try to do, trying to shorten the episode so you
Yeah.
guys
None of
can.
these 2-hour bangers.
We'll try not to. Can't really promise anything, guys. But I think J and T just want to say that we're both happy to be back doing it. We're happy for you guys that to have you guys back that are tuning in. We always appreciate you guys. And if I need to remind you, like I did so many times last year, remember to hit the subscribe button on YouTube and on Twitch. Actually,
And like the
we're
video.
gonna we're going to continue to do our shows same time. Monday nights is the plan after Hotline League generally. And yeah, even though there's no dislike button, oh, I don't know what. I guess you could hit the dislike button. We're not going to see it though. I guess I don't know how that works. Hit the like button though. That one we'll see. That one we will see. Anything you want to shout out, Jinter?
Nope.
All right, we will see you guys next week. Hope you guys are along with us for the rest of the year. This has been episode 68 of the Clown Fiesta podcast. Bye until next Monday.